It is a car being shrunk. When he shrinks, you see these after images that trail him as he shrinks down. There you have it. 3 simple Ant-Man effects. Hey guys, Cameron here. Welcome back to Cam's Corner. With the recent release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I thought I would break down a few of the Ant-Man effects I've done in some of my YouTube shorts. So the effects I'm about to break down are pretty simple to do, so I encourage you to go try these effects out yourself. It's really actually just one concept, it's one effect applied in 3 different scenarios. So let's jump into effect number 1, shrinking a person. So for this effect, I required 2 video plates. Plate number 1 is just a shot of me walking into frame and then pressing a button that's supposed to shrink me. And then plate number 2 is just an empty blank plate without me in the frame. Once I got those, it's time to bring them into After Effects. So the first thing I did was that once in the first plate when I pressed the button to shrink myself, I freeze frame and do a masked 2D cutout of myself. Then I toggled keyframes on the freeze framed layer, and over the course of about 10 frames, I shrunk myself from my regular size until I was out of frame. Then I made sure to turn on motion blur for that layer. And the next step is what I call the ghost images, which basically refers to, in the Ant-Man movies, when he shrinks, you see these after images that trail him as he shrinks down, sort of a silver outline of the Ant-Man shape. That fades over time. So for my effect, I required 2 ghost images, and they're each at different sizes. One is when I just shrink a little bit, and one is when I shrunk a little bit more. And each ghost image consists of 2 layers. The first layer of a ghost image is the freeze frame cutout of me with the screen blending mode chosen. And the second layer is a duplicate of the first layer, but this time with the find edges filter added on top, and make sure that inverted is checked. This creates a white silver outline of the 2D image. And then for the second ghost image, basically apply the same idea, but just make sure that the second ghost image is a little bit smaller. And then make sure to toggle keyframes for the opacity of both the ghost images so that they fade over time as the shrinking continues. And there you have it. There you have a basic Ant-Man effect of a person shrinking like Ant-Man. Now, effect number 2, which essentially has the same concept as the first effect, but this time it is a car being shrunk. In context of the short, my friend Stevie throws one of the Ant-Man shrinking discs at a car and the car shrinks. The same concept applies. I did a 2D cutout of the car and then keyframe animated it to shrink down, then created 2 ghost images that would have the sort of the silver white outline of the car, and then have them fade over time. And that is the Ant-Man effect applied to the car. So for the shrinking disc that my friend Stevie throws, even though actually in this shot it looks pretty real, it's actually not even a 3D model or anything. I just Google image searched Ant-Man shrinking disc and found an image where the lighting actually matches the lighting conditions of the shot I filmed, and then just 2D cut it out and then composited it by rotoscoping part of Stevie's thumb so that it looks like he's holding the disc. And then when he throws it, I just keyframe animated the disc to spin and then follow a path towards the car. Now, effect number 3. So this effect, it's essentially the same concept once again, but the effect doesn't just work for the Ant-Man shrinking effect. When an item is enlarged, the same effect also applies. So for this clip is actually from a short I made like 6 years ago. The idea is that my friend trips and drops several enlarging discs, and then they land on various household items that suddenly enlarge and take up the whole space. But once again, I just applied the same concept of the effect to those items. A 2D cutout, but instead of shrinking it down, I keyframe animated it to enlarge instead. Specifically for filming these shots, perspective is really important. That's the fun thing about the Ant-Man movies, is oftentimes they play with perspective. What would happen if a camera had to be shrunken down and be filming a tiny person? So in my head, I had to do a little bit of mental math of trying to get the perspective correct. So when I was filming the video game controller, the basketball, and the pillow, I basically put the camera where I thought what eye level would be if it was a tiny human next to the object. There you have it. 3 simple Ant-Man effects, but they're really just one effect and one concept of an effect applied to 3 different scenarios. This effect is pretty easy to do, so I really encourage you, if you're interested, to try it out in one of your own projects. And if you applied this effect to any of your projects, please send them my way. I would love to check them out. So that's it for this week's video. I know it's a bit shorter than usual because it's a somewhat simple effect. Next week I will have another video for you breaking down another creative process. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon back in Cam's Corner. Bye.